Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 sports video. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 Canadian WWE wrestlers of all time. These are all Canucks with great work and all that. And these guys are one of the best around. Um, there are a couple of ladies in this thing. And, there's only two Canadian women who are legends. But boy, are they legends. Anyway, number 10 is Sami Zayn. Now, his career is kind of on the outs in a sense. He hasn't really been on TV as much. I think he's injured or something. But yeah, Sami Zayn from Montreal, he captured the IC and tag team belts and praised for his versatility and storytelling, and he was both a hero and a villain. Now, he was prominent in NXT alongside his childhood friend Kevin Owens, which we will get to later in the countdown. But yeah, he was known. He is of Syrian descent, and would have Arabic on his tights and all that. Of course, for years he wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia with WWE for obvious reasons. But yeah, he's been a great guy and all that. Winning the tag belts with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 39, which was amazing. But yeah, he was once a what they call a conspiracy theorist and all that, and fought Johnny Knoxville and lost to Johnny Knoxville at a WrestleMania. And then the next year, he was with Kevin Owens winning the tag belts. So yeah, it was big. And then winning the Intercontinental belt off of Gunther at WrestleMania in 2025 was just amazing. Number 9 is Natalia Neihart. She is a member of the Hart family by marriage because, Jim the Anvil Neihart married one of Bret Hart's sisters. So that's why he's a Hart. And Natalia is one of the kids. So Natalia is a multi-time national women's champion. She holds many records for WWE women's matches and known for technical wrestling and leadership backstage. Although she's kind of more in a joke role now, Natalia was pretty good back in the 2010s when it mattered for WWE to get out of the stigma of women wrestlers being just jokes. Number 8 is Christian. Christian grew up wanting to be a wrestler, and boy, did he ever become a good wrestler. He paired up with Edge, and he had a great charismatic tag team. 5 second poses, but then comedy acts, but then of course with the kazoo, and then the the pair of TLC matches, which are tag matches, that are legendary, and all that with the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys in a rivalry. Christian was pretty decent as a singles wrestler. He wasn't the best. He was known as a crybaby wrestler for a few years. He just couldn't catch a break and all that. He was decent. He was actually a WWE champion at one point, or was it world heavyweight? I think it was world heavyweight. But yeah, he still did well. He had a partnership with Edge and solo success, known for his in-ring psychology and ability to tell compelling stories. Yeah, and then he went over to TNA, and then now he's in AEW. Blah, whatever. Number 7 is Trish Stratus, the greatest female wrestler from Canada and one of the greatest ever. She's a 7-time WWE Women's Champion. She had influence that revolutionized the women's division. A new generation of female wrestlers went under her guidance, and the fact that Trish was part of the first ever Raw main event for a woman, facing off against Lita. Trish was known as a heel manager, but then she became a singles wrestler, and she did quite well for herself. She was legendary and all that with her storylines, especially with Mickie James and Mickie's obsession over her, and the WrestleMania gesture, which had to be cut out for obvious reasons. Why did Mickie do that? Anyway, Trish knew what to do, and she retired as WWE Women's Champion in Toronto against Lita, forcing Lita to submit to the sharpshooter. But Trish came back for a little bit of a run recently, so yeah, that's what happens. Number 6 is Kevin Owens. As I said about Sami Zayn, I talked about Kevin Owens. Hailing from Quebec, Kevin Owens would always go to wrestling shows in Montreal. He won the Universal Intercontinental and U.S. champions. So yeah, KO was known for his hard hitting style and microphone work. Amazing in the uppercard, and of course Kevin and Sammy being friends, and then Kevin turning on Sammy when Sammy won the NXT championship. You know, KO and Sammy always would have great matches against each other and with each other, if you will. Kevin Owens was the Universal Champion by being Goldberg, being the WWE Champion, and then Chris Jericho took it from him, I think. But yeah, Kevin Owens is a WWE Champion, which is pretty good. He's an IC champion, US champion, as like I said, and tag belt with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 39, which gave a lot of people fun memories. So anyway, KO doing this now, he is actually out due to injury, but when he comes back, he'll be better than ever, I think. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Number 5 is Roddy Piper. Everybody thinking, hang on a tick. Roddy Piper is from Scotland. Yeah, he's billed from Scotland. He's not really from Scotland. Roderick Toombs was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. His first match was at the Winnipeg Arena, lasting 10 seconds, but he still would fight and all that and turn into Roddy Piper, would do well in Portland wrestling, and then got brought to the WWE as a massive villain, where his charisma, quick wit, and Piper's pit segments made him a cultural icon, even though he was a heel. He had decent Piper's Pit moments. One of them was with, of course, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, which people don't want to talk about because Superfly Snuka, what he did to Nancy Argentina. Anyway, 1 coconut, 2 coconut. Yeah, and then smashing Snuka over the head with a coconut made him a massive certified heel. He was in the WrestleMania 1 main event facing off against Hulk Hogan as a bad guy. Piper would be in WrestleMania 2 boxing Mr. T, but getting disqualified when he used wrestling moves. And then he took some time off after WrestleMania 3. His retirement match, everyone thought this was the end, but it wasn't. Well, Piper kind of went through his Piper's Pit things. He did some Piper's Pits and all that. But then he came back to wrestling by 1991 after a run as color commentator on PPV events alongside Gorilla Monsoon and also Vince McMahon. Piper would win the IC belt, I think, at Royal Rumble. And then all of a sudden, he would face Bret Hart for the Intercontinental belt, which was actually a showstopper, a show stealer, a scene stealer, if you will, because Hart beat Piper cleanly. But it was weird that Roddy Piper actually was a good guy at that time, and so was Bret. So yeah, he's a cultural icon. It just feels sad that he died so soon. Number 4 is Owen Hart. For how good Bret is, Owen was just as good. He has a legacy as a gifted technical wrestler. Now, if you're thinking, well, that can't be right because in the late 80s, he was the Blue Blazer, and Owen Hart, he just wasn't much. But that's how he was built on the card. But then he started to pick up speed. He did tag with Bret and become a tag team champion. He was pretty good and all that. He was gifted technically, and then once Owen tried to get out of Bret's shadow and kick his leg outside with his leg, Owen was a pretty good singles wrestler and a good heel too. He would fight Bret Hart in the main event, the opening match, of WrestleMania 10 in 1994, and actually beat Bret with a roll up. It was a great 30-minute technical fight. His in-ring ability, versatility, and memorable rivalries was big because Owen would face Bret Hart for the WWE belt in Chicago at SummerSlam and lose. But yeah, Owen was pretty much good. Like, as a singles wrestler, he was decent and all that. He even teamed with Yokozuna, who was my favorite WWE wrestler until I learned he wasn't from Japan. He was from Polynesia. So anyway, yeah, Owen was great. And then he was the Blue Blazer again, who was set to win the Intercontinental belt from the Godfather at Over the Edge 1999. But of course, we all know what happened. The scaffolding, like his stunt went wrong as Owen inadvertently had the release harness, activated the release harness. So yeah, Owen died in terrible circumstances. Number 3 is Chris Jericho. He's a multi-time world champion and the first ever WWE Undisputed Champion. Jericho tore up in WCW with the Cruiserweights, especially his rivalry with Dean Malenko, and then he left after WCW was pushing the old guys more so than the Cruiserweights. That's kind of what Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit did too. I know Chris Benoit would technically make this list. He was a good Canadian wrestler, but we all know what he was and why he's omitted from the list. Anyway, Jericho was decent. And then he went to WWE in his promos, the famous countdown clock and all that, and The Rock facing off against The Rock in August 1999 in a battle of microphone skills. You know, he had his mic skills, reinvention, and adaptability. He could adapt and all that. In 2001, he won the WWE Undisputed Championship when WCW and WWE were now under one roof in a sense. The WCW heavyweight belt came with. Jericho beat The Rock for that belt and then would beat Stone Cold. I think with Booker T's help. Who helped him? Or was it Vince's help? But yeah, Jericho had two belts, but lost them both to Triple H. But he was pretty good and all that. In 2004, you would have that thing with Christian for $1 Canadian. But the fact is that Jericho was good too. In 2005, he was fired by Eric Bischoff, who was mad that John Cena was running the place. And then Jericho went to do some other stuff. I think, he wasn't in TNA, but he did some other stuff. And then in 2007 he came back to go after Randy Orton. And then, he was kind of a dick to Shawn Michaels and all that. However, Jericho was a pretty decent technical wrestler, and people cheered for him. The pride of Winnipeg, not Toronto's one fan says. Go back to Toronto. I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot. Anyway, Jericho, great wrestler and all that. 2013 lost to Fandango, one of the worst upsets in WWE history. But the fact is that, Jericho is in AEW. Rumors are circulating he's coming back for Royal Rumble. Well, I'll believe it. Or WrestleMania. I'll believe it when I see it. Number 2 is Edge. Speaking of Christian, his partner Edge, the rated R superstar, as Tony Chimmel would call him. Multiple world titles, winning 11 world championships, the most by a Canadian wrestler. The fact that Edge was pretty good was big because, the Edge story grew up in Orangeville, about an hour from Toronto, and then went to WrestleMania 6 with his mom and was in the crowd and all that, and then won a essay contest from the Toronto Star, so he got free wrestling lessons. And he was in wrestling school. He honed his craft. He did quite well and all that. Charisma, high risk style, and memorable moments. Of course, Edge started off as a tag team specialist with Christian, winning many titles, including a couple at the TLC matches. I think it was SummerSlam 2000 and then WrestleMania 2001, when he famously speared Jeff Hardy from a ladder 20 feet up and would kind of inadvertently start his neck problems. But Edge was a good wrestler. In 2004, he was a good guy, but once he got booed in his match in Toronto at Survivor Series, in what Jerry Lawler called Bizarro World, he changed his tone and became a villain. And it worked. Edge got popular. He got over, if you will. He won the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match in 2005, which actually granted the title holder a chance at the WWE or World Heavyweight belt within a year. He challenged John Cena after Cena went through a brutal Hell in a Cell thing at New Year's Revolution. He was known as the ultimate opportunist, and that was how the nickname stuck. Edge and Cena would have a big battle in 2006. Edge helping Rob Van Dam win the WWE belt from John Cena at ECW's event in 2006. Yeah, Edge had great rivalries and headlining WrestleMania, and he actually had an undefeated streak for 7 or 8-0 for a while too. Like he never lost WrestleManias at times. Unfortunately, 2011 he would have to retire due to injury. Well, 2010 he was out with injury. Chris Jericho caused the problem, and then Edge at Royal Rumble 2010 came back, and they went holy sh, in Matt Striker's words. But yeah, he beat Chris Jericho. He speared a lot of people and won the Royal Rumble. And as Matt Striker says, on this day, I see clearly the ultimate opportunist is back. Edge would take advantage of the Undertaker a couple times for titles and all that with JBL's annoyance. He did quite well, and then 2011 he had to retire due to injury. And for 9 years, he was not on. Well, he was on WWE programming from time to time, but 9 years he wasn't in the ring until Royal Rumble 2020 when he came back and shocked a lot of people. And yes, this was before the pandemic. So Edge wowed the crowd. He did okay. I think he took second one year. No, did Edge win Royal Rumble one time? I can't remember. I don't think so. But yeah, Edge is pretty good. Although he's in AEW, so patooey. And number one is got to be the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. At least for Canada. Bret the Hitman Hart. Arguing the greatest Canadian wrestler around. 5-time WWE champion, known for his technical prowess and storytelling abilities. He was in his father Stu's dungeon, as a wrestling school in Sweltering Heat and all that stuff. And toughened it up. Bret Hart would be good for Stampede Wrestling and then to WWE in the late 80s as a tag team with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation, winning several titles. And then, of course, Bret Hart went into singles wrestling and did quite well. In 1991, Intercontinental Champion over Mr. Perfect at MSG at SummerSlam, and his parents watching. Greatness. The greatness would be good. And then in 92, at a house show of all things, in Saskatchewan, he beat Ric Flair for the WWE belt by forcing Flair to tap out. So, yeah, Bret the Hitman Hart was just amazing and all that. And, you know, that's how things happen. And then, he had that WWE run until Yokozuna famously took it away from him by having salt thrown in Bret's face. Bret would come back and Vengeance have a great rivalry with Owen, even though he did lose the opening match in 1994. He was in the main event for the WWE belt against Yokozuna because Bret and Lex Luger both went over the floor at the same time in 1994 at the Royal Rumble. Bret won a coin flip. Lex would face Yokozuna, lose it because he shoved Mr. Perfect, the referee, and then Bret would face Yokozuna, win the title, and Yokozuna slipped on the top rope. And of course, Bret Hart got his revenge on Yokozuna. He would have the belt for a while. I think Diesel took it off him. I can't remember who took it. Oh no, Bob Backlund took it off him thanks to Owen Hart's deviousness. But yeah, Bret Hart was WWE champion late 95 and early 96 before HBK took it off him WrestleMania 12. Bret, WrestleMania 13, was a good guy in a sense, but he beat Stone Cold Steve Austin in a match. But unfortunately, Bret turned heel and basically shat on the Americans. The Americans booed him. The Canadians cheered him. Of course, WrestleMania, the Montreal Screwjob, 97, being screwed by Vince McMahon and not coming back to WWE for 13 years, although he did come back to do a DVD thing about his life and career. And Vince McMahon didn't shit on Bret Hart like he did The Ultimate Warrior. So yeah, Bret Hart came back in 2010, forgave Shawn Michaels for everything, had a program with Vince, and beat Vince at WrestleMania. And then Bret Hart won the US belt and then won in 2010. And then the next week he retired. But yeah, Bret Hart was the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Well, is this episode the best there is, the best there is, the best there ever will be? Yeah, right. Anyhow, I'm jumped on to do.